and no doubt he's a good pro as well in the background, which helps as a great example to all the young players. We see him doing it week in, week out, scoring the goals, the assists. And put it to the difference would be if you put him in the Arsenal team, Arsenal would win the league this year. That's how special he is. So.
Yeah, I mean, the season he's having, there's no way you can keep that going every single game to the end of the season. As you said, he's still on course to have a brilliant season. And if you look at the history of Mo Salah, he's never had a bad season, but he's always had a spell in every season where he maybe just goes off the boil a little bit, doesn't look quite himself.
We'll get back to Keano and Carragher in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D Talks Football hits. And as ever, if something is on your mind, if something is bubbling up inside of you that you need to express, please express it in the comments. The Big D reads all of the comments. He's always interested in what is on your mind. Anyway, in this little clip, Roy Keane and Jamie Carragher are going to be reacting to the wonderful news for Liverpool fans that Mo Salah has signed a new 2-year contract with the Scousers. Stick around for after the clip because the Big D is going to be giving his thoughts on this wonderful news. Here they are.
Les, with your Director of Football hat on, looking at the Salah deliberations, all those contract negotiations that have gone on, how much a relief is it at board level, as much as anything, just to have this deal done? I
think at board level, yeah, you know, one of the best strikers we've ever seen in the Premier League, to keep him for another couple of years. The negotiations, I can imagine at his age, from board level, would have been what it wouldn't have been if he was 27 years of age.
Difficult for them to break their structure to do it, to look at a player who's in his 30s and say, we are going to give him this 2-year extension. Yeah, difficult, but then when you look at the numbers that he's throwing up year in, year out, you're saying to yourself, then we have to keep him, because to replace him, you're going to spend a lot of money, and you're still going to spend a lot of money on the wages of that person anyway, and they're not going to be able to guarantee. Well, you don't know if they're going to guarantee you the goals that he's been guaranteeing Liverpool year in, year out. So from that perspective, I mean, when you look at Mo Salah, he was always very cool about it, because all he was doing was playing his football, scoring the goals, and the more goals he was scoring, the more pressure Liverpool was under. And Roy, you know all about refreshing squads that have been successful, but is it also about making sure that you keep the players in there who have got you to that position as well?
Particularly the star players, and no doubt he's a good pro as well in the background, which helps as a great example to all the young players. We see him doing it week in, week out, scoring the goals, the assists. And put it to the difference would be if you put him in the Arsenal team, Arsenal would win the league this year. That's how special he is. So I'm kind of glad they got the deal done, you know, it really is, because you want the top players playing the Premier League. It was only a matter of time, I think, that they got it agreed. I think he deserves it. He's a special player, and no doubt a good pro. And you're on about, I suppose, making changes at the club, having kind of targets regarding not giving contracts to certain players, but you know, every player can be different. And you look at we've seen him get interviewed many times, and we've seen him, he's a proper pro, he's a fitness freak, and he's doing the business. And that's why they had to give him the deal. They just couldn't let him walk out the door on a free. One of the things that he's talked about motivating him are these personal records, and the fact that he's now staying in the Premier League, is contracted to stay until 2027, is that he's chasing down these kind of totals. And you look at maybe Alan Shearer's all-time Premier League goal-scoring record, and you know, nearly 80 goals looks like a tough target even for Mohamed Salah. But then you look at things like Liverpool's record scorer. That's again a tough target to meet by Ian Rush. Premier League assists looks very beatable. Things like most goal involvements in a season, certainly most assists, most combined goals assists. He's closing in on, Les. Yeah, it certainly is. He's still got, is it 7 games to go, and you know, he's got a couple of goals to get and a couple of assists, and he beats that 47 record. You see him doing it, and you know, if that's his motivation, then he'll be looking at all those stats and seeing how close he could get to all of them, and you wouldn't put him past him, because as you said, he's a fitness freak. He looks after himself, and he wants to go out as probably the all-time best striker that's ever worked in this. And some of them stats are really, like Shearer and all these people. Rush were out and out strikers. You still see Salah maybe as a wide player, so to be up there. He describes himself as a winger, yeah. Yeah, so the fact he's up there competing with these players, I'll tell you what a good player he is, and the assistant. And we watch football every week, and the hardest part of football is still scoring goals. And when these boys are doing it, that's why they get the big money and the big headlines, and they deserve it.
Jamie, how pleased, relieved were you to see Mo Salah sign that contract?
Yeah, I think everyone was. It's almost been as big a story as what Liverpool have done on the pitch, really. I mean, the manager's constantly asked about it in every press conference, so I think there was just huge relief all round as well. And almost then you can start thinking almost like the excitement of sort of what's going to come in the next couple of years. So, you know, he's not a player Liverpool now have to replace. What other areas of the team are Liverpool going to look to strengthen?
So what message do you think that does send? We did an interview with Arne Slot a few minutes ago where you talked about what it might mean for potential signings, what it does for the crowd, what it does for rivals like Arsenal who might have been looking for a little window to attack the Premier League themselves. What message does it send to all those different groups?
Well, I think a big one is, you just mentioned there, the other clubs actually, because I think a lot of clubs this season, you know, rightfully will give Liverpool their flowers and say they've been the best team in the league, they're going to go on and win the Premier League, but Van Dijk might not be there next season, Trent Alexander-Arnold might not be there, Mo Salah might not be there, so they can get 2 out of the 3, which I think people have always felt may happen for Liverpool. I think then if you're coming up against Liverpool next season, you're thinking, okay, he didn't spend a lot of money in the summer. They're probably going to have a right go this summer, and the 2 best players are staying.
So he's obviously having one of the all-time great Premier League seasons, maybe the all-time great Premier League season. But what about right now? In his last 7, just the 2 penalties against Southampton. Why the dip? Or just thinking back to what you said after the cup final, actually, do you look at the others who play up front with it?
Yeah, I mean, the season he's having, there's no way you can keep that going every single game to the end of the season. As you said, he's still on course to have a brilliant season. And if you look at the history of Mo Salah, he's never had a bad season, but he's always had a spell in every season where he maybe just goes off the boil a little bit, doesn't look quite himself, and then you can't write him off because history tells you he just gets back to scoring goals again, and, you know, West Ham are a team he likes to score goals against.
What do you think the Mo Salah contract announcement, plus Arsenal's result yesterday, does for the atmosphere inside here today? Does it just lighten the mood a little bit?
Yeah, without doubt. I think Liverpool obviously play well, score a few goals. It'll almost feel like Liverpool have won the league today. I think with Arsenal's result yesterday, it's almost done and dusted. But as I said, the Salah news, sun's out. And Liverpool getting back on track, because Liverpool haven't been themselves as well the last few weeks.
I think that's probably the best decision both parties could make. I understand Mo Salah's won everything with Liverpool, but he's still riding high, and he obviously loves Liverpool, and if he's still able to play at the top, then he should play at the top for as long as he possibly can. I understand the impulse to want to go to Saudi Arabia or the MLS or wherever to earn a big fat bumper paycheck, but at the end of the day, he's going to be on all kinds of money at Liverpool anyway. And how much money does anyone really need? To be fair, you know, not to sound like some kind of socialist, because the Big D is not a socialist or a commie or any of that woke brigade. No, thank you very much. But the point I'm making is, there's not much you can buy. You know, once you earn X amount of money, you can buy most things that you want to buy. You know, and I'm sure he's got more than enough money that he needs to buy anything that he wants. So I imagine it gets to a point where you just want challenges. And to be fair, the Premier League is the most challenging league in the world. It's the most physical and technical in the world. You know, the Spanish fans might disagree on the technical side, but it's true. Maybe the Spanish team is slightly more technical, but not by much. But the Premier League is, you know, probably twice as physical on top of that. So that's the reason why the Premier League's the best league in the world. So to try and win that again with Liverpool, I mean, you've got to put them as favourites next season. If Van Dijk re-signs, that is, they can afford to let Trent go. Fair enough. I mean, it's not even official that he's gone yet. He might still sign a new contract. But the point is, if he goes, it's easier to replace Trent than it is Mo Salah. Because as Roy mentions in the little clip there, you know, scoring goals is the hardest part of football. And if you've got a player that's scoring you 27, 28, 30, 32 goals per season in the league alone, players like that are gold dust. You know, so if they were going to replace him like for like, it's going to cost them like 150 million. Easy. You know? So if they had someone lined up to replace him, like they had an 18-year-old Kylian Mbappe ready to step up, then fair enough. But they haven't, so it kind of buys a little bit more time for Liverpool to, replace Mo Salah. And it gives Mo Salah, a little bit more time in the limelight. I mean, the Big D has to be honest. The Big D's a little bit gutted that he's re-signed because the Big D's a United fan, as is well documented. But, from a sporting perspective, I suppose you want to see the best players play in the best league and all of that kind of thing. But Liverpool are going to be favourites now that he's re-signed, and Virgil van Dijk will probably do the same. And if that's the case, it's got to make Liverpool favourites. Depending on what happens with Man City in the summer, of course, if Pep's got over his divorce and he's found himself a nice new Spanish chica, put a smile on his face, then hopefully they'll kick on again themselves, and then, they'll be able to get back to winning ways to stop the Scousers from winning the league. But hey, you never know. Man United might pull their finger out with their backside and start putting some points on the board as well, but that's highly unlikely. But yeah, I mean, thrilled. The Liverpool fans must be thrilled. Fair play to you. I mean, this is your time in the sun at the moment, so enjoy it. Enjoy it, because it can go just like that. Believe you me. It went just like that with United. So fair enough. But it will be interesting to see how Liverpool get on in the new season, in Arne Slot's second season, because this is when Arne Slot is going to have to build his own momentum, so to speak, because I think it's safe to say that a large part of Liverpool winning the league this season, which is probably going to happen, most likely, is down to the momentum from Klopp, and they've built on the work that Klopp done over the years, and Klopp was an amazing manager, so fair enough. So it's what Arne Slot now can do to keep that team winning, keep them consistent, keeping them hungry, keeping them moving forward. So that will certainly be interesting for the football purists to see. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good thing that Mo Salah signed a new contract? Or do you think he should have went to Saudi Arabia and got a big bumper payday? Or even went to Real Madrid or Barcelona? I'm sure he had some suitors knocking on the door. But as ever, thoughts in the comments, and the Big D will see you in the next one.